What's up, everybody? This is episode 8 of the PlayStation Effect, the weekly podcast that discusses the past, present, and future of PlayStation. I'm your host, Marco, and joining me is my good friend and co-host, Pablo, and this week we're taking a trip down memory card lane to reveal the PlayStation games that define us. Plus, we'll also discuss the 2 newest Game of the Year contenders of 2026, along with the Metro 2039 announcement that made a lot of people wonder if they missed the boat on the Metro series as a whole. So stay tuned for all that. But before we begin, Pablo, we got a little bit of housekeeping to do. Some of you might have caught it at the very beginning of my little soliloquy there. But look, as a new PlayStation podcast, me and Pablo are always looking for ways to refine our podcast to welcome in even more PlayStation fans who are looking for a new podcast home. And as part of that goal, we decided to update the name of our show to, I think, better reflect what we're truly here to cover, which is the effect that PlayStation's past, present, and future has on the world of gaming. And so with that in mind, we are officially changing the name of a podcast from the PS Files to the PlayStation Effect. So whether you're a new or a returning listener, we hope this transition helps clarify the show's mission and helps you get to know us even better as we dive into where PlayStation's been and where it's heading next. So hopefully that makes sense to you. But same good conversations. No real changes to the structure of the show, nothing like that going on. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode. And speaking of which, Pablo, let's get into it, man. Got a lot to talk about this week, dude. So want to check in with you, kind of talk about how gaming's been treating you lately, like we always do. So what you got going on, man?
Yeah, man, I've been playing 2 games, Pragmata and Replaced. Those are the Game of the Year contenders you alluded to up top.
Absolutely.
Mostly right now, I've recalibrated my efforts to Pragmata, kind of getting through that before I get back into Replaced. I'm trying to kind of do the one game only type of thing. It's just, it's better for me in terms of my life balance, you know, where I don't want to play 5 minutes of something and end up playing nothing, you know, in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, what do you want to start off with? Because I know you're also playing those 2 games. What do you want to talk about first?
We got to start with Pragmata. I was certain that Resident Evil Requiem was going to probably take home Game of the Year for me. Pragmata's fighting. Yeah. This game's incredible. And it's so funny because when this game was announced and it got delayed and then delayed and then delayed, a lot of people were like, all right, it's going to be one of those Capcom games that just kind of comes out, it limps out to launch, comes and goes. It becomes, at best, one of these, like, exoprimal, kind of like B-tier, cornball sort of sci-fi games, and we all just move on and forget it ever existed. And, nah, that's not going to happen here at all, man. This is a special game. It's a very, very special game.
Games that go through development hell, we've been conditioned to kind of expect the worst, right? And I was kind of expecting that, you know, and as we saw more of it, I got put at ease a little bit. And then Capcom out here not delaying the game anymore, but pushing it up a week, you know, showing even more confidence in the game. And now I see why. I mean, this game is absolutely amazing. It evokes all those kind of, a lot of people have been saying this as a negative. It feels like a 360 game gameplay wise. That's why I love it.
Ain't no problem.
It's like it harkens back to that time, and that was the best that these third-person action games were at. So I love this game. I love that it has that heart. I love the relationship between Hugh and Diana. I really think that this game is special, and I've heard both sides of it from people who've played the game. Some people think it's a little corny, that not written as well. I've yet to run into anything where I feel like it's out of place or like so bad that it's cringy. I love it. I think it's so good. And the gameplay, man, the gameplay is so good. That never gets old. The hacking systems, the combat hacking, none of that gets old. It's just so fun to play. It requires attention and it's engaging, and I love that about the game. I love that it did something different with the very simple approach to third-person action games with just point and shoot, right? Nope, there's something different to that. And I love it. I think it's so good in what it does.
I couldn't agree more, dude. I mean, this game is beaten down the door to take Game of the Year for a reason. I can't overstate how refreshing it feels to play a game, Pablo, that doesn't do the adult-child dynamic like God of War and The Last of Us. This is so much more refreshing because Hugh and Diana's bond feels so much warmer and happier and more upbeat despite the high stakes. And especially as a girl dad myself, I have myself a 7.5-year-old daughter. My God, the relationship that builds between the two of them reminds me so much of my relationship with my daughter. She's got that same curiosity and whimsy, and she's naive, and you have to watch out for her because sometimes she'll, bump into something or, almost fall over, and you have to be the dad in that spot. And it's like, it's all reminding me of that stuff when you get new things for your base. So they have a base system here where, as you're kind of progressing through the game, you can take a break, go back to your base and just kind of chill, and she can kind of play around and do her thing. I mean,
talk to her a little bit. You
can chat with her. You can play hide and seek with her. You can gift her things like slides and things that kids like. And she'll in return, draw things for you with her crayon set and stuff. And it's so adorable the way that is tapping into what parenthood feels like. And I'm really excited to see where that relationship goes. And I'm ready to cry. I'm ready to bawl like a baby. They have that part locked down in a way that I didn't even expect them to do, to be honest with you.
It's the little things. When my son comes home from school and he says that he drew something for me, it every time, it's terrible drawing. And it's so, at the same time, so beautiful to me. And so I also think that they capture Hugh's character at the beginning. Very, very short window between him. People were saying that he despised kids in the beginning.
No.
I think that the approach they did with Hugh was the thing that people do when they don't have kids, when they hear other people have kids, when they go, I'm sorry to hear that, right? And you go, yeah, these children, my kid is a handful. He takes up 90% of my time, and I wouldn't have it any other way, right? And so he comes into that with the very basic mindset of a man who doesn't have kids, who thinks that they're going to cramp his style, right? Just because he never had them. And so she shows up, and immediately it's this paternal instinct that kicks in, and it doesn't feel rushed. It feels natural. It feels exactly how I think I would have gone through it, and how I did go through it when I finally had my kid, where I was worried, and then just instantly was just kind of like falling in love with this thing because I felt that I needed to care for it. And that is not explicitly said out loud, but it's shown all the time. And those little things are so good. Are so good. I don't understand people who are out here saying that it's not the best written game. I think it is. I think it's one of the best written games.
I think it's one of Capcom's actually. Yeah, I would agree. I think it's one of their best written games in quite some time. Because they're going places emotionally that you wouldn't expect a game that is otherwise this campy to really be trying to do. So it pulls you in for one reason and then just kind of surprises and delights you with the narrative hook that's there underneath it all. And I think that's really special. But the gameplay is absolutely sublime, to your earlier point as well. I mean, I think the hacking to shooting loop feels incredible. I will also give some credit to the level design. I don't know if you've reached the city yet, Pablo.
I'm not yet.
When you get there, you're going to have a really good appreciation for what they do to kind of maneuver you through that location. It's very vast, but it's got a little of the Souls-like connectivity that you can kind of clink together after a while. And once you kind of get to that part where you're like, oh, wow, they actually designed this really cleverly because I'm back here now and now I can go right over there. And it's really smart in the way that they've done that. And I think it just speaks to, again, this really feeling like something that they took a lot of time in thinking through from a development standpoint and polishing. Because the other thing I was going to bring up is ain't a whole lot of problems with this game from like a polish standpoint, a presentation standpoint. It looks good. I'm playing it on PS5 Pro. It's doing everything you want a PS5 Pro enhanced game to do. And even if you're playing on a base console, I still think it is a really nice looking game. And its art style does what it wants to do very effectively. So I honestly can't find a lot of fault in this game, Pablo. No, and that's what's screwing with me a little bit. The
only issue that I'm having with the game is a technical one, and I'm not sure if it's the game or if it's PlayStation. Most of my trophies are not populating. So I don't know if it's a sync issue, because sometimes I'm playing and then I get a trophy from the first act. I'm like, what? And I look it up and I was like, yeah, I unlocked that hours ago. But looking online, it says it's most likely a sync issue, so I'll have to take a look at that. But regardless of that, yeah, there's not really much here that I find to complain about, because I think so far they're nailing everything that they've attempted to do. And you don't get this from games that have been in development for so long and seemingly been in trouble. I thought this game was canceled. Everybody thought this game was canceled.
yeah, it's wild, man. It's wild how a game like that could go from being like, oh, they're gonna scrap it, to being potentially a top 3 game of the year for many of us out there. So it's wild, man. It's pleasant surprise, to say the least. And I love moments like this, man. That just makes gaming so special, when the game that you really didn't think could do it did it, and it's like, oh my god, this is a total new, and it's selling pretty well too. It already cracked 1 million.
1 million in 2 days, yeah.
Yeah, so now it's like, okay, this might not be a one-off either. This might be the next thing that they do, next to Resident Evil, next to Onimusha, next to all the other things they're working on. It's like Capcom is untouchable right now. They cannot be fucked
they're an
with
absolute
at all.
fire. They're an absolute fire. It's insane how well they've been doing lately.
Yeah.
But you know what's crazier and what's even more special is the fact that there's another game that's on our list that also was in development for like 7 years. We're talking about Replaced. My God. What a fucking game.
This one was a game that I'd had my eye on ever since it got announced, because the art style was just so visually arresting that I was like, this is going to be special. Even if it's not even fun from a gameplay standpoint, I still want to play it and finish it just to see what this game is doing visually. And I think in many ways it's kind of along the lines of what I would say a game like Inside is, in that it's a lot of just kind of going from point A to point B and taking in the the atmosphere and the environments, the ambiance, and then you'll have some sort of event happen. In this game's case, it's either traversal puzzles or it's combat sequences, which I think have actually been a little bit more fun than I was expecting. They're not like the most extensive thing in the world, but I think that they're pretty stylish and cool to look at. And so I've been pretty surprised at how well that exploration to traversal puzzle to combat loop has been kind of carrying me through the game so far. It's surprisingly high quality. And I know for you, it probably wasn't on your radar as much as it was on mine. So I want to definitely get your take.
Well, I've been burned by a lot of these games where these are highly anticipated indies and they finally come out and it's like, it's fine. It's okay. You appreciated it for what it is for such a small studio to be working on it. But Replace it's truly a game of quality. It doesn't feel like an indie game. It feels like 200 people worked on this game, because art style, visually stunning from the get. Like, incredible. That 2.5D thing that they do, they take that shit to another level, because it is the kind of perspective shifts a little bit when it's kind of tilted to the left or right, and you kind of see the 3 dimension.
Yeah.
Dude, it's so good. And then I was taking a little aback, because my expectation for these games, for whatever reason, was fast-paced platformer action, and that's not what this game is. Characters completely animated, so every move he does is an animation, and it took me a little bit to kind of get into that. I think I wrote you, I'm like, it feels like he's off by a couple of steps, and it's just that every step you make is animated, and that's on purpose. That's purposeful. That adds an extra layer to the traversal and these moments where you have to run away from enemies and whatnot, and all that stuff is interesting, because the 2.5D art style was implemented midway through the dev cycle, and so was combat. There was no combat in this game. This game was going to be a lot like Inside. That was what this game was going to be. I think the addition of combat and the 2.5D really takes this game to another level, and I consistently stunned, and it's commendable. A game that has the type of action that is comparable to like the Batman games, right? Yet it forces you to take in your surroundings at times. And I think when they do that, that's when the game shines. I think the contextual storytelling, you're going to get the story from this game, what you put into it. Read everything, because it's going to really build that world out. And it's an incredible, I hate using these kind of terms, but it's like a labor of love. It really is. They really did everything they could to make this game special, and I think that they nailed it.
I love when games go niche within a niche within a niche within a niche, and you get something that is ultra honed in on exactly what it specifically wants to do. And I love playing games like that because I feel like that team really knew what they were going for. And even if the results don't resonate with everybody, which I think we're seeing with like the review scores right now, if you are in tune with what they're trying to go for there, you get something that feels not only underrated, but as we mentioned at the top of this, like game of the year worthy. I want to talk a little bit about the story, though, because I think that's a big part of why I'm getting even more invested in it, because the way they tell the story isn't super straightforward. And right. I do think that it warrants maybe kind of setting up for the listeners. It's set in this like post-nuclear 1980s version of America, and it kind of drops you in this like cyberpunk city where these corporations are controlling everything, and human life is almost kind of treated like a form of currency. So you play as this character, Reach, who is an artificial intelligence that after something happens in the very beginning of the game becomes trapped inside the body of its creator, which is a guy named Warren. And it starts off, well, what starts as like a simple fix the problem kind of situation turns into something a lot darker when the corporation that you've been working with tries to erase everything connected to the incident, including you. So you're trying to escape the city. You run into a lot of different groups and meet new people, see a different side of the world. You start to figure out how things work. And all the while, this AI that's taken over the body of this person is starting to feel more human and, empathize more, figure out why it's so important to fight for certain things. And so you start kind of getting a little bit more of that human element put in there as you're, trying to get through the game and get to the finish line. So neither of us are done with it quite yet. I'm probably at around like the halfway point. I think it's like 10 chapters long. I think I'm at chapter 5 right now. So there's a lot more for me to see, but I've already been very wowed by, not only the immersive atmosphere in the world itself and the storytelling that happens contextually, like you said, but also some of the characters are really cool. Tempest is a side character that you run into pretty early on in the game, and he kind of guides you into meeting new people and kind of opening things up a little bit socially for your character. He's great. Super underrated character from what I've played of other games this year so far, and I think I'll probably add him in our category for best character because he's all heart. He's one of those guys that's all heart, all passion. We got to fight the good fight. We got to put boots to the ground. And he's naive in that way. And, you being this ultra logical, rational AI construct, you're just like, what's going on with this dude? So that sort of relationship has been really cool to watch unfold. So there's a lot of moments like that happen in between the great art style, in between the cool Arkham-like combat, and of course the contextual storytelling around it. So I can't gush about it enough, man. I think this game is super underrated. I think more people need to play it. Unfortunately, it's not a PS5 game. I would love for that to change sooner than later so that our brethren can play it.
They've spoken about that. They're focusing right now on the Xbox and PC version of the game, but that they're open to other possibilities, other consoles, which I think this game would be outstanding on the Switch too, and also on the PS5. I can only imagine what a PS5 Pro could do to this. I guess for anybody out there who is kind of on the fence, and you guys, maybe some of you are cinephiles, just think Blade Runner meets Alien. I think that's the perfect amalgamation of what this is, and that post-apocalyptic, and I'll say the word that if you say this word, I am going to buy your game. Noir setting. You say Noir, I'm in, buddy.
Oh,
I'm
Pablo
in day
gets
one.
rock hard when you say that. Coochie wet,
man, I love
everything. He's got both. All right, man. Let's lock in and move on. So, another thing that kind of has people talking, which I think we can cover now, is the announcement of Metro 2039, which happened at a recent Xbox showcase event, which gave like a first look into the game and sort of opened people up to what's next for the series. And I think that the sentiment on social media was kind of one of two things. What was Metro about in the first place, or it's gaming's best kept secret? It was kind of one of the two from my perspective. And I do think the series has been very slept on, and I think thankfully I'm kind of doing a podcast with somebody who's been sleeping on it. You've been napping. You've been napping so hard you need a damn CPAP machine dealing with this damn series, bro. So I need to know. I want to understand why people like you, just disgusting, diabolical people like you, don't play good games. Why don't you do that?
Yeah, it feels dingy.
All right.
Like,
you know what?
I think, Metro Exodus was the last one,
You
and
don't even know games.
that was the one that was like the best of the three, right? The dumping quality is there. I definitely see it. It's just, for me, there's something about it that just doesn't quite grasp me. I don't think I love the world. I don't think I love those kind of worlds. Like, it's not something that really speaks to me in any way, shape, or form. But I will say, the stuff I saw with 2039 looks really good. I'm definitely excited to try it for sure. I did buy the bundle that was like $5,
Yeah,
just
you
to
get
have
all
that
the
on
games for $6. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
That's
It was on
crazy.
PlayStation, and so I didn't order it on PlayStation, so I was like, okay, I'll download it just for posterity's sake to have at it. If 2039 turns out to be like holy shit, then maybe I'll go back and play those. But I'm excited for you. Let's just say that I'm so excited for you. Good job, bro.
I can't wait for you to never play it.
I'm definitely going to play it. It's whether or not it's going to captivate and capture my attention. We'll see. It's coming out in winter, so we still got some time to wait and potentially maybe even get delayed out of that since it's so far into the year. But
I would imagine probably early next year, January, something like that, probably. I will say I think the Metro series to me is a Fallout fan's favorite non-Fallout. So I kind of get the premise real quick. Okay, so like a nuclear apocalypse kind of devastates Russia. So like the last remnants of civilization kind of retreat into tunnels of the Moscow metro. So down there they start to kind of evolve the station into like a city of sorts with its own kind of ideology.
Which is really cool,
factions. By the way. Yeah. And it's really neat how they've kind of, built a whole civilization under there. And so throughout the series you played as a guy named Artyom, who is this, quiet, silent protagonist type of character, Gordon Freeman-esque. He gets pulled into a lot of conflicts, and it's really all about him kind of protecting his home station from these psychic mutants that are called the Dark Ones, but then it becomes something a lot deeper. So it's this like journey through a broken world where the real threat isn't necessarily just the radiation outside or the monsters out there. It's also like social things, fear, tribalism, the way people kind of cling to old identities after the world that created them is kind of gone. So there's a little bit of that stuff, some pseudo-political things in there too. So all three games kind of build off of that, and I think the scope sort of expands as you play more of these games, from the tight claustrophobic tunnels of the metro to what ends up happening in Exodus, which is more of this open, scarred surface of Russia where you're realizing, oh, this actually is habitable, but now how do we survive here? And who's been up here this whole time while we've been thinking that the world is devastated? So if you've watched a show recently called Paradise, it's got a little of that going on. Everyone retreats to the big bunker in the mountain while everybody outside is still figuring out a way. It's a little bit of that. So maybe that's the best comparison to give some of you who might be interested in trying it out. And I think it might be worth a lot of your time out there. But the first two games are a little older, so they're not as modernized. Exodus definitely picks things up, and it's a beautiful game. It got a great PS5 and Series X update a few years back, and it's a looker. It's incredible. So
what I liked about what they show with Metro 2039 is the fact that it's going to focus more like a survival horror, psychological horror thing, and it's going back into the tunnels, and I don't think...
Yeah, it's going to get darker.
So they did say that, so I like that. And I also like that the protagonist is now going to be voiced, so, a different approach altogether to the series. And I feel like a lot of the themes like survival, tyranny, and all that stuff, I think a lot of that stuff is going to really shine through when it comes to refocusing on the tunnels and the power struggle that's happening down there. So I like that. I like that as a story hook, but I also like the fact that it could be more of a psychological thriller. The games were kind of already that. They were kind of scary games, like they had those elements to them. So I'm glad that they're refocusing on that.
I'm looking forward to whatever they do. I trust their team. They do great work. And I hope that this time around the game gets the spotlight it deserves, because I think the series has just gone criminally overlooked by a lot of people. And it's time for that to kind of change, especially while we're still waiting for the Fallouts of the world to kind of get back on their feet and do something new. It's great to see this franchise still chugging along and doing interesting things. So keep an eye on it, y'all. It could be one of those dark horse games that hit either late this year or early next year that you should probably keep an eye on. So last thing, I've known Pablo for a very long time, most of my life. And one thing I've always known about Pablo is that he doesn't root for me. He doesn't celebrate me at all. He doesn't, when good things happen in my life, I know you can't share it with this man. But, I still try. And because I still try, I told Pablo that, my job recently awarded me with through like a gift certificate for lasting almost 12 years on the job, to go ahead and invest myself into a good old Nintendo Switch 2. And I shared that news with Pablo. I'm expecting a lot of excitement, a lot of exclamation points, and all I got was absolute condescending, cynical, pessimistic, dark, gloomy, happy for you, bro. That's all I got. You seen that meme where it's that little kid taking school pictures and all his shots are mean mug faces and it says happy for you, so proud. That was Pablo to the T. And so Pablo, I wanted to come up here even on a PlayStation podcast and celebrate this moment, right, of expanding my gaming horizons. But I feel like I just don't have the freedom and the space to do that with a toxic person like you. So I'm really here to get an apology out of you, if that's okay.
It wasn't supposed to go down this way. I was supposed to get a Switch 2 first. We had a plan, man. We had a plan.
Who is we?
You know, me and you. The plan was I get a Switch 2. I tell you how good it is. And then you say it's not. And then you end up getting it anyway. And now that plan is ruined. You ruined the plan, man. You changed things, man. You changed the friendship.
Wow. All right. You know what? We don't need to do an episode 9. That's fine. We can stop right here. 8 is a good number. It is a nice, even number. We can just let it go.
No. I mean, look, I am happy for you because what you told me, you know, you're getting it and you're happy because you're going to be able to share that with your daughter who's going to really start enjoying her journey into Nintendo, which I think is the best console for kids. And I think she's going to broaden her horizons in gaming. And you're going to have yourself a true gamer on your hands. You just got to get off the Fortnite.
Fuck you. He's not happy for me or my daughter. Look how he treats children. I wonder, you don't treat Diana in Pragmata good at all. That's all I got to say. I'm sick of this, man. I'm sick of it. Anyways, but it has been interesting because I have gone down a rabbit hole on YouTube now to see what like a lot of Nintendo content creators are saying about the Switch 2 these days. And I think the narrative is starting to shift positive again.
Yeah.
And, you know, I definitely understand it because, man, you know... The Switch 2's launch was drabber than night one of WrestleMania, y'all. It was bad, but now I think it's definitely softened. I think only 2 complaints have kind of popped up now, which is battery life and no OLED screen. But I think it's just kind of cool seeing people say, okay, I think this is starting to kind of get back on track now. I think Pocopia helped out a lot. So
that's always the case.
Cool.
So with sequels to very successful consoles, like PlayStation 2, unsaleable, one of the best consoles of all time. The PS3 comes out and it was the same thing. I mean, there were some messaging issues there with them. Pricing was a problem, but the PS3 is an incredible console, which it just took time for people to get on board with that as well. People have expectations when it comes to what the next iteration of their favorite console should be. And I think that's a lot of what we're seeing with the Switch 2 is like, this isn't what I wanted. It's like, cool, but this is what you got and it's Nintendo. So just shut your mouth because you're going to end up loving it anyway, you know? So it's Nintendo. You know what you're going to get from them. That's one of the things about them that people tend to love that I love. Consistency. You know what you're going to get. Whether or not you grow out of the genres of the games that they make, that's on you, but they don't take a lot of chances in terms of branching out into something different. It's, hey, this is the Switch 2. It's more of the same and more of the games that you're going to love to play.
Yeah, I think people are starting to come around on that a little bit too from what I've seen. Like, I think people have a different appreciation now for like the minimalistic UI. It's not a bunch of ads clocking you in the head. It's not, you know, being annoying in those kind of ways. It's just very straightforward. You pick a game, you play it, and you have fun. And I think that simplicity is starting to hit people in a different way nowadays. As we just continue to have to deal with the noise of marketing coming through in our console gaming experiences. When you play like a Xbox game or a PS5 game, you boot up to that dashboard and it's already hitting you. You know, it's like, man, I just kind of wanted a focused experience.
Buy this,
buy, subscribe, buy, follow this, wish list it, do it. And it's like, man, I don't, that doesn't get enough like hate on the internet, I think. Like, we talk about all games qualities and stuff like that, but like marketing and ad work is just getting worse and worse. Think about Xbox and PlayStation pushed people into feeling that the UI for the Switch 1 and 2 were actually good things because they're so bland and so nothing. That's a good thing now because there's so much bullshit going on in those console UIs, like you said. So yeah, but it feels good to be better than you with the Switch 2, and I'll report in when the time comes and stay humble about it the entire time. Let's move on. Let's stick with PlayStation because that's the only console that Pablo really fucks with these days because times are hard. Anyways, Pablo, let's talk. Let's talk about
the only thing he didn't say there is like, anyway, the pores don't have such.
All right, brokies, listen up. Let's get to the next segment here. And that is the PlayStation games that define us. So obviously, we're doing a PlayStation podcast for a reason, and that's because this platform means a lot to us, and we have a lot of history. You just kind of thinking back on all the experiences that really made us PlayStation fans. And sometimes that doesn't always mean that the best of the best games are what do it. Sometimes it's, the mid-tier games. Sometimes it's the deep cuts. Sometimes it's the games that kind of got forgotten over the course of time. So rather than just give you our 5 favorite PlayStation games we've ever played, I think it's, probably an easier way to get to know us by just hearing some personal stories around 5 games that may not be the best of the best in certain ways, but really kind of helped us establish our place within PlayStation, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we're going to go round robin. I'll let you start, Pablo, with the first game on your list. Any personal stories you have are totally welcome. Just any anecdotes you have, I think would be good to tell the people a little bit more about yourself through these games. But give me the first one on your list.
Bloodborne. I think if Dark Souls 3 started my obsession with the Souls games, and Elden Ring solidified that genre as one of the best for me, Bloodborne undoubtedly is like the heart of all that, because it is different enough from those games, but yet it's very much a Souls game. But it's Miyazaki's kind of personal approach to how he can make things different, but still making them the same. Sure, you have your campfire, your sites of grace, and all that, but there's something different way this game is built. And the way that they grabbed me so much later into my journey into Souls games was interesting, because it's a game that I couldn't get into because it felt so different from everything else, right? And getting into it, it's like, man, you can fuck with the combat. You can do things differently, and it still feels very much like those Souls games that I love. And I think that Bloodborne is the quintessential sort of game for me, in that it takes me away from my comfort zone, because I am right now, if you're talking about my favorite genres, it is a Souls games are my favorite genre. It takes me out of that comfort zone and plots me into this whole different world and approach to the way you play the game, the way you approach combat. And I think it's a very interesting way to approach development, because I think a lot of times when you look at Souls games, they're very much by the numbers, especially the FromSoft one. So this one stands out for me, and it's a game that really does a lot for me in terms of how these games can be different yet feel like I'm at home when I'm playing them. So I think if we're looking at it, Elden Ring, it wouldn't exist without the things that Bloodborne did, and I love Bloodborne for that, for sure.
Cool, man. Let me jump in next with my first pick here. I got Parasite Eve. Parasite Eve is one that I really think made a huge difference for me as a PlayStation gamer back in the day. A big part of my PS1 run goes to Parasite Eve for being what it was. Basically, you're following a character named Aya, who is this, NYPD officer who sort of gets entangled in this weird biological crisis where you have these like microscopic organisms that are evolving consciousness and turning on humanity and infecting people, and it gets very Resident Evil very fast. And so what starts off as this like localized outbreak in New York escalates into like a full-blown human crisis. And so Aya, kind of at the heart of it all, is sort of tasked with figuring out what's going on, because she can't seem to be infected for some reason. And so across the story, you run into just a lot of revelations, and it's very pulpy. It's got a little police noir kind of, elements in there, lightly though. It's definitely a grittier game, and it's a game that I don't think that I've ever seen Square Enix try to do since then, with just taking survival horror, making it into an RPG, and really going after it with like really mature tones. And I loved the boldness and the creativity of that. And I remember just thinking, man, if this is what RPGs are doing now, man, what's this genre going to evolve into when I get older? And unfortunately, I don't think that the genre really progressed as far as I hoped it did overall. That's a different topic for a different day. But Parasite Eve was just one of those moments in gaming history for me on PlayStation where I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know games can really blend as many elements of my favorite things into one product and be so good. And man, it's just a crime that this franchise died before it really got a chance to go out there and flourish. So
it died, but people still talk about that game, you know?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. People like me are out there who keep this game's name alive. And hope for the day that we can at least get like, hey, the next PS classic coming to PlayStation Plus is Parasite Eve. Like, if we get at least that, I'd be over the moon, just so that more people can get exposure to this classic. But I don't know what's going on with Square, man. Maybe there's some kind of issue internally. They don't have the masters in there or something like that. But
could be.
It's it's a shame, man. It's a shame.
Why'd
this
you
game
say
doesn't get more
masters like that? That's crazy.
I didn't mean it. I mean like record masters. I'm talking about Taylor Swift. This is the Taylor Swift of Japanese horror RPGs.
Yeah. No, for
as
sure.
everybody would attest.
That's everybody. Yeah, everybody says that.
Of course.
So the second game on my list is Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. For those of you who heard our earlier episodes, even last week, I think we spoke about Sly Cooper. I'm a Nintendo kid. I come from Nintendo. So it was hard, if not damn near impossible, for me to enjoy a PlayStation mascot platformer. It just felt like it missed something. It didn't have the precision of its controls. It didn't have that magical, whimsical Nintendo feeling. The characters were cool, but not as cool as Nintendo characters, at least for me. But I think Sly Cooper is the most Nintendo-ass game that Sony has ever made. It's these incredible characters and a twist to gameplay that really only Nintendo would do something like that. Like when you look at Luigi's Mansion, right? You take an established character and you put him in a whole different situation. And I feel like if you look at the PlayStation mascot as a genre, I think Sly Cooper stands out beyond all of them. I think artistically speaking, I think when it comes to gameplay, all that stuff, it really is for me a great gateway into PlayStation because it felt like I was playing a Nintendo platformer on the PlayStation. And I love the series. Every game in the series I think is great, and I want so much more of this, and I hope that they find it in their hearts to do it. Or guess what? Just sell it to Nintendo. Have Nintendo do it. That's okay. I'll be okay with that.
If we have room in this world for Astrobot, why don't we have room in this world for another Sly Cooper? That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm saying. Let's move on, though. Get to my next pick here. The next PlayStation game that defined me was Final Fantasy VIII. I think 7 is probably my favorite Final Fantasy of all time. Without question, it's probably in my top 3. But Final Fantasy VIII has always been a game that I think has been not only criminally underrated, but I think one of the best PlayStation-defining experiences there were for its time. Because what I really loved about that game back then was it felt like a maturation for Final Fantasy. It went away from the sprites and the little 2D, and it got into something that felt much more mature and adult and proportional when you look at the characters and the art style of the game. And I thought that narratively they took a lot more swings. I think the game just got a lot of bad press because it wasn't enough like the games that people really do love in Final Fantasy's history. But I fell in love with it immediately. I thought the story was great. The soundtrack is one of a kind. I think that the combat system, while flawed in certain respects for sure, is still very fun. I enjoyed it. I thought the junction system was just fine. And I would say what really kind of made it define me as a gamer was how addictive an RPG can truly get for me, because it wasn't just the story that moved me. It wasn't just the combat that moved me, the exploration. It was also triple fucking triad, because that is like, to me, the A1 best in class side game in all of Final Fantasy. I think it is one of the best card game, side game things in all of gaming. I put it right up there with Gwent. I put it right up there with all those types for just how addicting it was. And I was a card collector at the time, too, as a kid. So basketball cards are my jam. So I already had that itch to like collect the best, rarest cards in my own right. So this was like a natural extension of that. And so for me, it was just kind of all the stars and planets aligned of having a really top tier RPG with a lot of polish, great presentation, and that addictive add-on there that just made this a game that I kept putting, in rotation for years and years. And I still love it to this day.
I'm hoping one day that I can play this game. I
I
just
love a remake. I love a remake, man.
A remake, anything that I can actually get into it. It's just one of those things where it just feels old. I tried it. It just feels a little too old for me. So I would like, and I don't have the nostalgia for it. So it's not something that can really grab me. But I want to stay kind of on that train. And let's talk about, I have a Final Fantasy on my list, and that's Final Fantasy X. I've gone back and I've played Final Fantasy 6 and 7, but 10 was my entry point to the Final Fantasy series. That is the game that I finally sat down, played it, and was completely blown away by it. And with time, playing other Final Fantasy games, I realized how special and how incredible Final Fantasy X was, and how much it impacted my life in gaming, because I was never a turn-based guy. My first experience with Final Fantasy was through Marco's eyes while he played Final Fantasy 7. I used to go over and watch him play a little bit, and that was cool and all, but actually having to sit down and play it, I never really took the time to understand it. But the combat system in Final Fantasy X, how it's more strategic. You can swap out characters on the fly, and the sphere grid system is totally awesome. It's completely customizable. You can go in there, change out things on the fly, and the world building atmosphere, all that stuff was top tier. I mean, at the time, Final Fantasy X was probably the best looking game I've ever played, and then you have the characters, and you have all these themes that go throughout. It just really was a game that I wasn't expecting any of this from it. I didn't know much for Final Fantasy, and then playing this game and kind of really understanding why people love turn-based combat, how turn-based combat can be better than action-based combat, and how that is such an integral part to the Final Fantasy series, especially in its earlier successes. I am continuously blown away by how Final Fantasy X is still, for me, among the best turn-based RPGs I've ever played, and every other game that comes after it still lacks a little bit behind it, in my opinion, because they nailed it. The reason why I still play turn-based games and why I look forward to turn-based combat games, not just Final Fantasy, just in general, is because of Final Fantasy X.
Yeah, and this was the reason why you wanted a PS2. You wanted a PS2 for this, Metal Gear Solid 2, Eco, and this elite company of games that would just go on to be timeless. This was right there with it. A game that has still been one of the most influential in all of the gaming industry. I think that as recently as Expedition 33, kind of basing a lot of what they're doing with their combat system off of what Final Fantasy X achieved all those years ago. So just a game that not only was great for what it was at the time, but a game that was so good that it's inspiring games in 2025 and 2026, all these years later, man. It's crazy.
Expedition 33, it's hilarious to me because I think that game is great, but the way people talk about it, it's like, oh my God, the Picto system is amazing. You can switch out characters on the fly. And I'm like, yeah, it's Final Fantasy X, bro. It's customizable. You're not locked into one build. You can continuously change the Pictos. The sphere system in Final Fantasy X, bro. Yeah, it's all there. It's always been there. But the interpretation of that was really well done on that game. But it goes right back to the granddaddy of them all, and that's Final Fantasy X.
Let's get away from Final Fantasy. Let's talk horror.
I
got Resident Evil 3 Nemesis up in this.
Interesting choice.
It is interesting, and it's not because I think, this is the best Resident Evil in the series or anything like that. Like I said at the top of this is not about just picking the 5 best. It's the games that define me as a PlayStation gamer, and this one was the one because, man, Jill Bartholomew Valentine, it's on the birth certificate, I checked. She was the reason. It was her. It was totally her. I'm a young kid. I'm discovering how much I like women at this point in my young life. And my God, I'll never forget the magazine ad for Resident Evil 3, where it's this old girl with the light blue top with the short black skirt. Exactly what you would wear during the zombie apocalypse.
Absolutely.
Perfect attire. And, her little white coat wrapped around the front. And I'm just like, this is my girlfriend. This is her right here. This is who I want. And I was like, I have to have this game because she was my very first video game crush. A lot of people, it's Lara Croft. It's Tifa. This person, it's that person. Tifa was definitely up there. But again, the 2D sprite Tifa, it couldn't do it for me. Like now with the remakes, I'm like, but Tifa it's different.
So Resident Evil 3 Nemesis it defines not only your video game passion, but your sexuality.
It pretty much is my sexuality.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, speaking of sexuality, then you have Nemesis, who is like the main enemy of the game, right? He is
so-called essential chocolate for sure.
He is the most toxic boyfriend in the history of video games.
He really is.
Right? Now he thinks he's just gonna get Jill, and he keeps chasing her all throughout the game. And, a lot of people think that he keeps saying stars when he's chasing her. He's actually saying draws. Like he's trying to get in the vagina panties, Pablo, and she's running for her life away from this toxic man that she met on Tinder in 1997.
Oh yeah.
And so
Tinder was definitely out.
Yeah, and so for me, this game, no, in all seriousness, this was, I don't know how long it's going to keep that bit going, but
all day, why not?
I just love the fact that it was Raccoon City at its absolute worst. I love Raccoon City as the location in games. That's why I love Requiem so much, because we went back there. You really got a chance to see what the outbreak did to deplete that city before it was about to get nuked out of orbit, right? And it was just cool to see the effects of that, to see Jill Valentine back in a game again after the first game, and just what made her so different and evolved from that first game. She can dodge now. She was a little bit more nimble at the time, and it still had that signature tanky flair to it that I love from old school Resident Evil. So man, it just checked all the boxes, man. It was such a cool and underrated game in the series that I still think deserves more love. And the remake of 3 deserves love too, by the way.
I would say I feel the same way about the RE3 remake, where people kind of shit on it, but I played that game and I was like, man, this game is incredible.
It's a good time.
Yeah, it's an incredible game for sure.
Yeah.
Look at my list here is Bushido Blade. I've never been a fighting fan game. But Bushido Blade.
You've never been a fighting fan game.
I've never been a fan of fighting games. but
a game about fighting fans.
I hate those games. They're the worst. I mean, just give me the fighting. I don't care about the fans of the fighting. That's ridiculous.
Man. Slow it down, man.
But Bushido Blade is like the brutal combat, and it's focused on strategic planning and its failures to execute, resulting in you basically just dying instantly. It turned out to be a building block for me for my future of what games would be. Strategy and thoughtfulness over bombastic chaos. And don't get it twisted, Marco. I'll get in on a Call of Duty, and I'll do some work. But games like SWAT 4, Rainbow Six series, including Siege, they speak to me on a level that Call of Duty never could. And it all started here with Bushido Blade, because it's not your run-of-the-mill fighting game where it's just mashing buttons. Like I said, you can square up and die instantly, get your shit cut off, and that's it. It's done. It's not about mashing buttons. It's about predicting.
Gone,
they cut your shit off.
Something's wrong with them.
That same kind of strategic approach, if you really look at it, it's why I like the Souls games. It's why I like those kind of games that are games that are really about planning and executing a plan. And if you don't do that, then you're shit out of luck. And it all started there, I think, because a lot up to that point, you had your Tekkens of the world where it's just Eddie Goro and just fucking spinning around and kicking people. This game spoke to me then, and looking back, it was the reason why I like the games that I like today. It all started there, I think, and it's definitely a game that doesn't get a lot of love. And when you mention it, people are like, oh yeah, that was a cool idea of a game, and but that really was like a seed for things to come for me.
Yeah, I remember playing that game very vividly, and it was my very first PlayStation skill check moment.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, I don't know if I got it for this type of game. You can button mash other fighting games, and you can bullshit your way through it. But this is one of those ones where it's like, no, I got to really think. And I think that, to your point, where that led you down your path as a gamer into Souls-like experiences where you lock in and you're just completely tunnel vision focused. I see the similarities there, and you're absolutely right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've been trying to figure out for years, but this game seems to be filling in some blanks on the origin story tips. So that's good. That's good to know, man.
But you think about it though, just throughout, like Rainbow Six Siege, it's about planning and executing your plan, right? And that's a game I've been playing since 2015, which is, I've never played a game so long. And so when you look at Overwatch, the most recent iteration of Stadium, it's about planning. It's about creating, and those things speak to me in a way that I don't really put into thought as to why, but looking back at everything that I've played, it's like, this is the one game where it's all about, okay, I got to predict what he's going to do, and then I have to plan on, reading what he's about to do and then execute that plan in a way that you can't really do a lot of games.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. Well, let me go ahead and jump in with my next pick here. This one's The Last of Us. When I think about it now, I'm like, man, I didn't really have a lot of Naughty Dog love at the time. I respected them. I didn't really get out of Uncharted what I think a lot of other people did at the time. So for me, it was like, oh, I don't know if we're really going to do anything that's super unique compared to that. Is this going to be another bombastic thing just with zombies? But when I played the game and I got a feel for what it was doing with the narrative and the relationship between Joel and Ellie, which I think is one of the most iconic duos in all of gaming history at this point now, and then just that world and the way that you move through that game, and it's so much less about the outbreak and so much more about the people that are surviving. That was what I didn't expect, because I'm coming off the heels of Resident Evils and Silent Hill games where it's all atmosphere and horror and frights and jump scares and, dogs jumping through windows. And this is more about just how people are carrying on and how people are getting through, and the way that it kind of eats away at your humanity, your moral compass, things like that. So at that stage of the game for me in my life, it was truly like a mind-blowing moment of like, I didn't know games can get this dark in a way that, very few games in my opinion since then have been able to touch. And as I became a father myself, the relationship with Joel and Ellie took on new meanings as time went on. So it's a game that I always come back to every year or so and replay again and again and again. I can't count how many times I finish this game, because every time I play it, I unpack something new that, as my own relationship with my daughter grows, I see more of what's going on between their dynamic, and particularly with Joel and just the way that he's kind of working through his loss and how he still finds a way to care and develop this warmth for her as the game goes on, and what you'll do to protect someone you love, even if it's the most irrational, world-ending thing you can possibly do, like say no to a freaking cure to save the world. Yeah. So just a game that I think spoke to me on so many levels that it had to be here.
I did a little audible here because I have to put myself in a place where when I played this game for the first time, how I actually felt. And I'm talking about Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. I think this is the moment PlayStation kind of stepped outside in these streets to kind of assert their dominance in what would be like story-driven games. This is like the prototype of what we were going to get for the foreseeable future and what we're still getting now. Uncharted 2, it takes storytelling, voice acting, and gameplay, and it's a game that's firing on all cylinders. It's something that I had never seen before, and it doesn't sacrifice one thing to prop up the other. It's a good story, but not great gameplay. It's great gameplay, but not a good story. Both these things were important and were front and center. The Last of Us is a better written game. It's a game that I feel could definitely be on my list, but I feel like this game did it first in terms of great storytelling and great combat. I would say that for me, the reason why I would pick this over The Last of Us is because it was also so fun to play. And I think the combat for The Last of Us 2 is a lot better, and it kind of does the thing that I wanted, where it takes the gameplay and takes it to another level. But Uncharted 2 did it first in that way. And for me, it kind of reassured me. It was a game that was put in my path that I feel like it was another reminder that games are going to be forever for me, because it's showing growth. It's not just a platformer. It's not just a Mario thing. It's not just, whatever this is. It's specific to the fact that it's a game that grew with me. I'm more mature. I'm seeing a fairly more mature story. And this is also where Uncharted peaked, to be quite honest. After this, it's been kind of diminishing returns. But Uncharted 2 is one of the best games I think that PlayStation's ever made. I think they've been chasing that ever since. Yeah, that's why it's on my list there.
Yeah, it didn't do for me what I think it did for you. I think I only liked Uncharted 4, I would say, out of the entire series, because I thought that was where the storytelling chops of Naughty Dog really caught up with the Indiana Jones like bombast that they were doing with everything else. But remember, I thought that 2 was definitely, at the time, with those original games, kind of, to your point, the peak.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was what I was going to say. It's like, at that time, I don't recall ever seeing a game like that where the characters felt like real people and everything else that you did in the game. The set action pieces were fucking mind-blowing. In the beginning of the game where you're hanging from the train that's falling off, all that shit was like, I've never seen this before. And it was so fucking amazing, honestly.
Yeah, I got to give credit where credit's due. And I did do like a full playthrough of the entire series, maybe about 3 years ago or so.
I remember that.
I think I appreciate those games better, but at the time, I think I was just looking for more of those narrative-rich experiences that The Last of Us ultimately provided me at the time.
Absolutely.
But no slouch, though, as a game. My fifth and final game that defined me goes to SOCOM 2, U.S. Navy SEALs. Probably the very first time that an online multiplayer game ever got me. Because at the time, in the world of console gaming, it was still fairly new to be able to play games online against each other. So that was more of Xbox kind of stepping into that lane with Halo.
That's right.
And, PlayStation 2 had this big, bulky accessory, the network adapter you popped into the back of the thing.
I remember that shit.
And it gave me a gateway into a side of gaming that I hadn't really seen yet. And it introduced me to a lot of the social elements of playing games online. And I remember, linking up with a lot of people. We formed a clan together, and we played that game religiously every night for about a solid 2 years straight, even past SOCOM 3. And so it became a nightly ritual. It became almost my friend circle when I was still figuring out what I wanted to do with my future. And is it college? Is it not? I still had that group, that core to come back to. And after a while, it was one of those times where it was less about the game and more about the people that I was playing with and just checking in on life. We're all in our early 20s at the time, so we're all figuring shit out as we're going to. So it was just one of those lightning in a bottle moments that I think we all have every once in a while, where you run into that group that just becomes kind of like your gaming family for a while. And that for me was what carried me through those early like college-ish years that I had. And so that game holds a special place in my heart for that reason alone. And then because of what it was as an actual game, apart from all that stuff on my side of things, sentimentally, it was also just a really fun time. Taking a little bit from, Counter-Strike and adding its own flavor to it. And games were always hyper-competitive. There was hackers, there was cheaters, there was, noob tube type of weapons, but it was all part of the charm for that game. And all these years later, as I've said in previous episodes, it's just a damn shame that we haven't seen anything SOCOM come back to the PlayStation experience yet. But hopefully we will one day. But man, that game was just perfection for what it was.
Those games are so good. I had a similar experience with Fireteam Bravo 2 specifically on the PSP, where it was just a game that I played every night religiously, and it was... On the PSP, you would never expect it. It was just like a beautiful piece of equipment where it was just a couple of friends of us just playing and having the time of our lives and not even registering that we're playing on this little ass dingy screen. That and Liberty City Stories is another one. Playing online in that game on the PSP was another. It was just such a great moment in time for sure.
Yeah, man, handheld gaming's great. I'm gonna actually get a lot of that with my Switch too when I get that, and
I'll
tell you all about it, Pablo. And you know what I'm saying.
I heard that the Amazon is gonna have a delay, dog.
That ain't no problem. I'll wait.
I'm stealing that shit.
Right. Well, we do have one other game though. We have a sixth secret game here at the end because we were both going to use this as one of the games that defined us. So we figured let's do 5 other games, and then let's talk about this at the end. And that is Metal Gear Solid. My personal favorite video game of all time. It's my number one. It always has been ever since the moment I first played it. Always will be. I don't think anything will ever come close to it for me, Pablo.
That's what I thought.
My experience with this game dates back to the demo disc that came out for it. It was in Japanese at the time. I had no idea what this game was all about. I had no point of reference either with like the older games previously.
Right.
So this was like a brand new series.
It was technically,
It was like a reboot almost.
Yeah.
I mean, there was still, it carries a lot of stuff over from, of course, those original games around Big Boss and stuff like that. But it was welcoming enough for newcomers like me to get in and fit in. So
yeah.
But I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, probably my favorite story in all of gaming. Best mood, atmosphere, environment. It is the quintessential PS1 game, in my opinion, in all kinds of ways that I just don't think have been touched since then. Iconic characters, iconic villains, great soundtrack, amazing voice acting, which that doesn't get enough love all these years later for its time. There are games today that don't beat that. You know, they don't even come close. And they were recording that shit probably in a closet.
I mean, there's stories. There's stories out there of if you hear it closely, you hear the people on the street and like honking horns and stuff like that because they did basically record in somebody's house. You know, man. It was our introduction also to the great Kojima. We didn't really have any kind of context for who this guy was, and he comes out here and the first kind of true out there artiste, you know, a guy who is undoubtedly himself, and he pours himself into every game. And anything Kojima does and has done since then has our full attention, you know, and it's so uniquely him. And I think for me, it started here with Metal Gear Solid for sure.
Tiniest little details. Oh my God. There's nothing that wasn't there that you would just go, how were they able to pull that off on a PS1 hardware? And to do so with such grace and creativity, Psycho Mantis fight, you know, things like that you just, how do you come up with that? You know, at the time, it was just, it made you rethink video games. Like, what were the rest of you guys doing all this time? If a guy like this can come in and completely reshape the way you look at narrative-driven video games, and also introducing and popularizing the stealth genre as well, which was a virtual nothing at the time. And you go from, okay, we're just going to play shooty bang bang games or beat 'em up games to, no, we're going to hide. We're going to press our backs against the wall. We're going to peek over. And when the coast is clear, then we're going to go. Like, that was like, oh, this is different. This is different. I mean, like footsteps on the snow.
Walk around the snow.
What are we doing?
And Gar's seeing that shit. You're like, when that first happened, I was like, excuse me?
Yeah, I thought it was a bug.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is a mistake. It's a mistake.
Putting your back to the wall and then knocking on the wall, getting their attention. Yeah. Oh, come on, the little details like that. You got to remember this is PS1. There are games now that don't do that. In fact, most games right now don't do details like that. And when they do, people are like, this is the greatest game of all time. Once again, Metal Gear Solid did that.
All these years later, I think of that game all the time. I'm so glad it's back as part of the collection. And you're right. It just, you know, so many of those moments, even the smallest ones, like, you know, knocking on walls and stuff like that, just those little things become so iconic, and you find yourself thinking about it all these years later. And if you're Pablo, you're knocking on bathroom stalls for no reason in public, and, you know, you get thrown out of Target. But, okay. That is going to do it, though, for this week's episode of the PlayStation Effect. We hope you enjoyed that. A little bit of a get-to-know-you kind of segment for both of us, so hopefully that helped you fill in some blanks about who we are as gamers on the PlayStation end of the spectrum. But look, before we go, be sure to follow our show. We drop new episodes every single Tuesday, and as a new PlayStation podcast, your support, whether it's following the show, leaving a 5-star rating, that goes such a long way with helping us get in this very tricky-ass algorithm that's out there. So we want this game podcast to reach more people like you, and so hopefully you'll support us along the way as well. But until next time, as always, stay safe, save often, and play on. We'll see you next week.
Peace out.